Ladies, gentlemen, friends, good to have you back. And if you're new to this channel, and if you are an aspiring UX researcher, designer, or product designer, welcome. You don't want to miss out on today's video because it is jam-packed with insights. My name is Omar Radawi, and this is Futuresque 360, and I think it's also a good time that I ask that you support me with your likes and subscribes if you do find this content helpful. Simply ticking the check marks of the UX process is no guarantee of success. And so this is the purpose of this video. I'd like to talk about how you can make informed, smart decisions, how you can become a goal setter and invest and deploy your rather limited resources in more rewarding ways. On the face of it, the world of UX research and design may seem rosy, fun, and glamorous. If you're on the fringes of this practice, the UX research and design process may seem rather simple. You conduct research, gather data, and run some analyses. Next, you proceed to an iterative design process or phase, and when all is said and done, you follow with some form of validation. The process is solved, the process is hacked. In essence, all you need to do is follow the steps, stay the course, and eventually light will come out as you approach the end of the UX research and design tunnel. Well, not so fast. The reality of UX research and design is that it is no plain sailing. Taking the check marks of the process alone is not going to take you far. UX researchers and designers don't always see the light because they've reached the end of the proverbial tunnel. Sometimes what they see can actually be a light emanating from an oncoming train that they're about to collide with. If you've been a practitioner long enough in this space, you've probably dealt with projects that are complex in nature. To navigate the uncharted waters, you've had to take decisions for which you weighed in loads and loads of variables, trade-offs, constraints, expectations, and so much more. But then you may debate that some parts of the UX design journey can be serendipitous. That is probably true, but bear in mind that success is not something you stumble upon in the grand scheme of things. Henceforth, as a UX researcher and designer, you will need to develop a repertoire of skills and hone this repertoire of skills over time, because this repertoire is what's going to allow you and your team a ticket to success. And so today I'd like to zoom in on a critical enabler and an essential ingredient for success in this practice, and that is the roles of critical thinking as well as effective decision making. So here's the thing, I have prepared for you 7 tips, and we're going to go over them one by one. Number 1, you need to put your analytical faculty fully to work as a UX decision maker. If there's one thing that the UX research and design practice inherently equates to, it is decision making. If you are a UX researcher and designer, pat yourself on the back. You are a decision maker, my friend. Knowledge is your domain, and your primary task is to put knowledge to work. You unearth data, gather information, cultivate a knowledge base, and develop an educated hunch on your subject, hopefully one that is well-grounded and that you keep growing and nurturing over time. The knowledge base that you acquire will also serve as the foundation for your decisions and actions. At the epicenter of effective decision-making is critical thinking. Speaking of critical thinking, you need to develop your ability to steer your research and design ship in a vast, endless ocean. At some point of your pursuit, ideas, questions, and considerations surrounding your undertaking will likely be galore. A crippling pitfall you should be wary of is losing sight of your end goal. As you grow your knowledge base, your capacity to separate the right signals from noise should grow in tandem. Likewise, it's important that you grow your ability to command your research and design pursuits in ways that fulfill and respond to the needs of your project and undertaking. Number 2, you need to recognize that UX research and design is not just about trying to converge as soon as possible. UX research and design calls for a delicate dance between convergent and diversion thinking. What I have just laid out for you should imply that your project needs and goals are fixed targets, nor does it suggest that UX design is only about staying the course. Quite the opposite. Sometimes your best bet would be to pivot and course correct. And as much as you need convergent thinking to keep the ball moving forward, divergent thinking can be a tremendous asset to your UX design pursuits when well practiced. For instance, amongst other tools, UX research calls for a dance between the exploratory and the confirmatory study of things, the research and discovery of things. And you need to be able to leverage and switch between those two as you see contextually fit. I'm going to put a link down below for an interesting, insightful conference publication that tackles a number of subjects, including sloppy thinking and idea fixation within the practice of research, which is very relevant to our topic, so make sure you check it out if you'd like to learn more about this topic. Major in what is important and be purposeful with where you look for clues. The gist of this discussion is that you should not spend significant chunks of your time looking for clues where they probably don't exist. Sure, I mean, you will probably need to scour the overall space for relevant ideas and inspiration. Sure, you may borrow from neighboring fields some ideas or concepts, but do not look for too long in an arid zone devoid of clues, because again, it's easy to get sidetracked and it's easy to fall off the track. If you are a fisherman at sea, then chances are you will probably be looking for fish where you know there's plenty. This shall remind me of a quote, a powerful quote by Jim Rohn I read many years ago, but the quote says, "Don't mistake movement for achievement. It's easy to get faked out by being busy. The question is, busy doing what?" From this quote, I'd like to springboard into the idea that you should be wary of sloppy thinking. Sloppy thinking leads to sloppy outcomes. So how can you avoid this? Well, first and foremost, use your knowledge and refer to your analytical faculties for guidance. Ask the right questions, hone your framing of your questions over time, and try to bring clarity and focus to your pursuits. Remember, sloppy thinking leads to messy outcomes. Goal setting and reflective practice will help you prioritize and deploy your rather limited resources wisely and judiciously. This discussion reminds me of a phenomenon I read about not so long ago called the streetlight effect, which refers to researchers' tendency to look for clues and answers right where it is most convenient to. Legend has it that a policeman once stopped a drunk man who appeared to have lost his key. The policeman goes, "Did you lose your keys here?" The drunk man says, "No, officer, but the light is much better here." Here's an illustration of how you can be purposeful and targeted in your approach. By a certain point along your UX research and design journey, you and your team will probably have gotten closer to what is called knowledge saturation regarding a particular problem or an opportunity area. Having gone through an ideation phase, you feel confident enough to tackle the design component. By then, hypotheses of what could work for your end users will have already started to crystallize in your mind. At this stage, you wonder, now what? What should I do next? And this is the part that I'm trying to get to. If you set up a study or an experiment, be thoughtful and judicious. Make sure your study tackles the questions and hypotheses that you started off with. iterate as needed, but don't lose sight of your objectives. Next, point number 6, don't delude yourself and don't get stuck with an idea or a path. Here is another pitfall that you should be wary of, and that is observational bias. This is an important subject. Imagine you've dug a hole that is too deep, only to find yourself in a position where it's hard to extricate yourself just because you've gone too deep down that burrow. Don't fixate on one idea, especially when there's growing evidence that it's not going to work. The world is multidimensional. It's okay to develop a comfortable level of confidence, but don't go too far with that, because you may risk deluding yourself and those that are around you. So how do you avoid that? Well, it's point number 7. Remember, UX design is not about you. It's about your end users and customers. Bear in mind that UX research and design is a collaborative practice and a team sport. Make sure you listen in, capture and internalize your team and key stakeholders' thoughts and opinions. Be humble and nimble and course correct as often as you need. If you have questions or lingering suspicions, gather more data, set up a study if necessary, and move forward accordingly. But do not get stuck. Your job is to act as the medium that will enable and bring about amazing products, ideas, or services, experiences for your end users. So do not let your empathy for your customers and your customer centricity falter over time. In summary, I have put this infographic summarizing some of the key points discussed in this article, and there's a quote by Jim Rohn: "A lot of people don't do well simply because they major in minor things." In conclusion, what I have laid out before you is my current knowledge of the UX design and research based on research data and my own personal views. What you see here is my provisional formulation, so don't be surprised if I keep improving and building my own personal understanding. To my original statement, do I think UX research and design is fun and glamorous? Well, of course I do, and I would also add that it's exciting and gratifying. But there's a catch. There's a catch, and that is fun and glamour and reward are probably all true so long you've attained your final outcomes. At this time, I would like to imagine that you, the viewers, are both my audience and my broader team, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on your subject. You will definitely add something to my and our collective understanding. So I would request that if you've enjoyed this video and found it insightful, please subscribe to my channel, like my content, share as well. I appreciate your support in any shape or form that you can. Your support will help me in bringing in new audience and continue to ramp up the content creation on this channel. For now, thanks so much, and we'll see you around.